Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Shama, Manager People Solution at Kagan Labs, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another exciting session in our Expert Insight series, the KL Tech Talk. At Kagan Labs, we are committed to sharing knowledge that drives innovation and transformation. Through this series, we bring insightful discussion from industry leaders to empower professionals like you with the tools and understanding needed to stay ahead in an ever evolving landscape. Let me briefly introduce who we are. Kaden Labs is a first of its kind venture studio in India, a global technology software, uh, a global software technology incubator with a synergistic blend of IT services and SaaS products. Since 2017, we've grown organically to 180 plus employees, served 200 plus customers worldwide, and built a global presence with operations across multiple regions. Our expertise spans across diverse industries such as fintech, health tech, edtech, retail, insurtech, manufacturing, and telecom. We specialize in delivering innovative solutions in cloud engineering, data analytics, software development, and AI services. At Kaden Labs, we pride ourselves on being a people centric organization, encouraging creativity, free flowing communication, and continuous innovation to deliver impactful products and services to our clients. Today's session is a part of our ongoing effort to address pressing challenges and explore transformative solutions. We are thrilled to introduce the topic predictive analytics for customer retention in fintech. In a highly competitive and data driven industry like fintech, retaining customers is not just about offering great services. It's about anticipating needs, identifying potential churn, and delivering proactive solutions. Predictive analytics enables businesses to turn data into actionable insights, fostering stronger customer relationships and long term loyalty. We are honored to have Mr. Vamshi Chittal with us today, a thought a thought leader in this space who will be sharing his insights on how predictive models and data strategies are reshaping the way fintech companies engage and retain their customers. We encourage everyone to actively participate by sharing your questions in the chat or the Q&A section. We'll address them during the interactive session toward the end of the session. Once again, thank you everyone for being here. Let's dive into the world of predictive analytics and explore how fintech companies can leverage data to stay ahead, retain customers, and drive sustainable growth. Over to you, Vamshi.
Thanks, Shamar, and thanks for the intro and giving details on the topic of the day, which is predictive analytics for customer retention in fintech. And just to highlight that customer retention is a common area regardless of the industry, and one of the most lucrative and most sensitive area or the sensitive industry is fintech, where the customers are having high likely who to churn to other services and other alternatives compared to any other industries. So that's why we focus on how do we use predictive analytics for customer retention in fintech. And in that spotlight, we'll try to see how do we leverage artificial intelligence, what are the areas and what are the key customer related data and features that can be used for leveraging artificial intelligence models to enhance the customer loyalty. And I will look at multi paradigm phases of the same. Now, coming to first of all, coming to how big is the fintech sector. So when we are talking about fintech and again about customer retention, so first question comes is like how big is that particular sector, right? So at a high level, so if we look at the number of transactions that are happening digitally, so in terms of financial transactions, and it has been surged in the recent times. And if you see by 2033, it is projected to be a 309 billion approximate market value, right? So which means that the trend is going up and there is a significant amount of predictive analytics required to capture that particular business value and sustain the businesses. So when it comes to that, then the question comes, so within this particular fintech, so there are a lot of things to focus on. And one of the key things that, as we just spoke in the very first slide, is the customer retention. So why does the customer retention is very important is because So fintech companies are having a lot of customers, and the chances of the customers churning or going to the other providers or other alternatives is very high compared to any other industry. Let's say take manufacturing industry. Now, if you take manufacturing industry, someone cannot just abruptly end your services and go to the second manufacturer or second provider. So comparatively, the fintech industry is more frictionless, which means like customers can go at any other provider or alternative as soon as they realize that they are providing better customer satisfaction, better features, better pricing point, or anything that customer value proposition is, right? Now, first point is like basically customer retention. Why do we need? It's basically for profitability. So the more number of customers you are trying to retain. So retain as in, let's say you today acquire 10 customers, and after 1 month you are able to have 8 customers, which means 8 customers have retained and 2 customers have churned, which means like they have shifted to other alternatives or other products, or they stopped using the financial services altogether. So whatever the reason, so now you are gonna lose that 2 people's revenue once they churn, right? So which means the profitability would go into vain. So we need to maintain customer retention. So which is very important for profitability. Profitability. And second is, let's suppose today there is also something called the customer acquisition cost, which is common across any company from startups to bigger MNCs or multinational companies or any mid-level manufacturing companies, tech companies, anything. So whenever you wanted to acquire a customer, let's say you are selling a product, let's say financial product, let's suppose you are a banking system, for instance. Now it's a financial sector itself, right? It's one of the component of financial sector. Now, so you are trying to reach out to the customers. Let's say you show them ads, you show them some kind of discounts, so you give them some kind of special privileges. Let's say they give you credit cards, extra discounts, some kind of lucrative offers. So in order to attract the customer into their ecosystem. Now once the customer is into their ecosystem, let's say you spend 100 rupees to acquire the customer, right? You acquired 100 customers. Now it is much better and easy to retain them than to find another 100 customers. Let's say today you have acquired 100 customers, but on the next day you are not maintaining the customer satisfaction, or you are unable to meet the customer needs. Now that these customers whom you have hard-earned money you have kept on them and brought them into the system, now they start going to other alternatives, which means you spent 100 rupees, and even before you getting back that 100 rupees, the customers would have left, which means if these 100 customers are lost, now getting another 100 customers would again cost you 100 rupees, right? Let's assuming one rupee per customer to get into the system. Now, if you have taken extra steps like predicting what is the customer satisfaction, what is the likelihood of a particular customer being gonna churn, and take precautionary measures. Let's say if a customer is likely gonna churn the next month or the coming month, you give him more discounts or kind of reach out to through personalized call, understand his needs, and give him many specialized privileges in order to keep him in the system, right? Let's suppose that cost you, let's say to keep that 100 customers, let's say it cost you 10 rupees extra, right? So you acquire them for 100, but for them to stay within your system for let's say 1 year or 2 years, it costs you let's say 10 rupees or 20 rupees. So which means like acquiring a new set of customer base is much harder and takes more money out of your pocket compared to maintaining and giving and trying to provide what the existing customers wanted to get out of your financial services or system, and then lower your cost of acquiring new customers, right? And also how does it happen is the question, right? So now comes to the third point. So let's say here we are talking about long-term relationships using like let's say customer loyalty programs. How can you stabilize the revenue growth, right? So customer loyalty programs are very common these days. Let's say whenever you use credit cards, you get like some kind of companies services have already introduced that kind of financial tokens or some kind of online offers for you to continue using their services. They try to make sure that they have long-term relationship with the customers and introduce new offers and try to understand their pulse to make changes in their systems. Now coming to okay, we are already talking about why do we need customer retention, and how does it impact, and why do we need to keep the existing customers satisfied. But then the second question is, what exactly is the retention rate, right? So customer retention is basically, assume you have all the customers, initial customers, and after 1 year, after 1 year, you are again looking back how many customers are left. Okay, so now let's suppose you have 5 customers. Okay, you have 5 customers, and 1 year back there were 4 customers. One customer has churned. Okay, so which means 5 minus 2, which gives 3/4. So there are 3 customers. I mean, total customers in the 1 year back was 4. One customer has churned, which means he has taken another services, or he stopped using altogether financial services. And then you have 2 new customers. So the net retention rate for that particular year is 75%, which means on an average for every 100 people you are getting in, 75 people are staying with your services, and 25 people are leaving your services for other alternatives, or other better alternative services, or better features, or maybe low price points compared to your services, right? And as I have mentioned, so financial companies, let's say fintech companies, are one of the hot cake in this particular customer retention and churn, because they have the high likelihood of shifting or sliding to other alternatives, right? So then basically, if this is the most frictionless, or like most likelihood field where the customer churn can happen at any time, at any part of the funnel of the customer journey, then it directly highlights that there is a need for a way to predict that how can we introduce discounts, how can we predict the customer churn, how can we do kind of analytics on predictive analytics on the customer data, and what kind of the key features we need to look at while you are doing that kind of predictive models, machine learning models, etc. Right? Now, coming to okay, we are talking about right now customer retention rate, and churn, customer churn. Okay, this is important, that is not important, everything. But then, what at a high level does that influence the customer retention, right? So, to highlight a few areas in terms of what focus should be given in order to build predictive models or predictive analytics. So these are the few areas. So let's say customer retention would be, let's suppose, would be highlighted by, or affected by satisfaction. Let's suppose you regularly might wanted to build a rating system and trying to predict, okay, how much rating are you getting from the customers. Let's say if you try to send them the surveys, you try to send them kind of regular survey calls or something, and regularly collect the data. And based on that, let's say the people would also give you feedback in a form or survey, or you can directly take their feedback on person as well, right? Now then, using that satisfaction or the comments, you might try to build models which would try to use those customer input, and then trying to predict how likely is the customer going to churn. I mean, how satisfied is the customer, and how many customers like that who have given a similar feedback in the past have actually churned in the recent times, right? Second is engagement. Let's say engagement is the most key element in customer retention, because if you are like it's like reminding the customer that they have something that they need to use. Let's suppose if you have 100 rupees in your pocket, but then you don't know that you have 100 rupees, then you don't use it anywhere, right? Similarly, engagement is basically you try to keep the customer engaged. So let's say you show them on a monthly basis, you send them like notifications, some extra, like let's say you try to see how often is the customer logging into your system. Let's say he is logging in weekly once, he is logging into your financial system or financial service, let's say a banking app. So let's say how often he's coming to your app, how many times he logged in, how many times he has taken the loans, how many times he clicked with certain components. Let's say he's coming and doing some kind of activity inside the application. Now, let's say using that, you assume that the customer is active. But let's suppose the customer has no engagement. Let's say for the past 10 years, for the past 10 months, for instance, the number of times he has logged in only is 10 times or 20 times at max, right? Now you build a predictive model, like basically it's like a classification you try to predict, right? you're trying to predict, build features. Let's say, okay, what has been the past trend, like how many customers who have been engaging this much level with these XYZ features. Let's say he has logged in this number of times, and he has logged in during this particular time, and this many times he has taken the loan, this much amount of perceived value he's taking out of our application, this amount of transactions has been done. So you try to take all these features. Engagement is one of the key component of it, and then you're trying to predict based on this engagement how likely is my customer is going to churn. Let's say in the next 3 months, next 6 months, and next 12 months, etc. Right? And then also like other two factors which would affect the customer's retention or churn is perceived value and service quality. So perceived value is how much is the customer feeling that your service is, how much value is it your service to the customer, right? And then the service quality, are you able to answer his questions? Let's say customer support, how actively are you able to resolve their queries? Let's suppose they are non-technical people who don't know how to use the application, right? Now, if your customer support is weak, so you're unable to solve the queries of the customer, then they are gonna anyway leave to the another alternative where they make more sense and get better quality of service to use their services. So in order to make the customer retention, these are the key influencers that we need to focus on and try to target strategies to improve these key areas. All right. Now, simply like as we are already talking about now, as we know, predictive analytics is something which will help us use the historical data. Let's suppose you have historical data. Let's suppose you have how many customers have left your services in the past, and you have their data. Let's suppose you have their engagement data, you have their age, like the demographics data, and you have their let's say their feedbacks, what kind of feedbacks they are given, what kind of ratings they have given in the past, and how much business value they have generated for you. So a lot of historical data would be there, and you are gonna use that data, and you are gonna use that data, and you are trying to predict like how likely is the current customers. Let's say you learn from your mistakes, right? You're trying to predict based on the past data. You're trying to build machine learning models for churn prediction. You're using all the customer demographic data, customer engagement data, or customer transaction history, everything and anything that makes sense for your model. And then you're trying to predict whether how much likelihood is the customer going to churn in the next 6 months, 12 months, 9 months, or you can also try to predict a yes or no answer, whether he's going to predict churn in the next month or not, right? And then you also can do pattern recognition. So let's say you identify, while you're analyzing the models, let's say predictive modeling is one thing, you're trying to do the classification, and also you can do some kind of pattern recognition in the data and detect like which customers, which kind of customers are the most likely people to actually leave. I mean, based on the previous data, you understand. Let's suppose the customers who are in the age group between 20 to 25. You have the historic data, and you have spotted the pattern that the people in the age group 20 to 25 have the highest likelihood of churn. So which means these are Gen Z generation are the who are at the hot age, right? Like 20 to 25 is like the key age where it is the majority of the people who use your services. They are technical people, are college students, or career starting guys, whoever concerned, right? So they might be less engaged. They might be looking for additional features, extra requirements that they wanted to pursue from your side. So you try to find those kind of patterns, and you try to take steps. Okay, if he's gonna be disengaged, or like this particular set of people are not gonna stay with me, so then you're trying to predict, okay, if I'm gonna add this feature, okay, you're trying to do kind of case studies. Let's say if I'm gonna add this particular feature, how likely is the person gonna stay back, right? So for that case also you can use machine learning as well, right? Machine learning, predictive analytics. You try to predict, okay, right now I'm giving this much of discount. If I'm going to increase the discount, or let's say increase the credit limit, let's say credit card limit, for instance, is he going to continue use my credit card? Let's say if you are having 50K credit limit, if you are going to increase it to 1 lakh, so whether the customer is going to stay back or not. So you try to predict it, and then you do the best update and best offers that you can offer the customer before he's actually churning, or before he's actually going off your services, right? And then some of the key machine learning techniques that can be used. So as we mentioned, so this is like retention, or customer retention use case or churn prediction is typically a classification problem. And for that, you can use a lot of modeling, like including logistic regression. We can use decision tree regressions. And if you want to go, you have like high level of features, and you want to be robust models with limited overfitting, or technically good sound with more a lot of features. So you can use random forest. And to highlight what works the best in kind of classical ML. So gradient boosting is one of the key player in this particular area, which has the superior ability compared to other models to make your predictions more accurate. So, and also like the point is, we always look for the simplistic approach. So only when we're unable to solve the problem using a simple approach, let's say sometimes our financial services would be a very simple case where we can use logistic regression or decision trees, or even SVM classifier, which are like simplistic models, which would still give you more interpretability of the model, but at the same time make the model predict more accurately, right? But if we have more complex systems in place where there are a lot of features, we can go for advanced models like random forest and gradient boosting to to find the patterns more proactively and increase the accuracy and take necessary precautionary steps. Now, coming to role of feature selection, let's say, okay, we wanted to understand the customer data, and we are trying to predict who is gonna churn, likely gonna churn, or how can we increase the retention. But then the point comes, what features to look at? Let's say right now also we are taking randomly few examples and trying to say, okay, if I increase this, then it's gonna be this result. If I remove this feature, then it's gonna be this particular result. Let's say credit card limit is one case, right? So in machine learning or like predictive analytics, where you're trying to build ML models to predict the customer retention, or he's gonna go out, retention or not, no retention. So there are key features that we need to look at. Let's say few of the features like transaction frequency, how often he's doing your transactions on your using your financial services, and how much engaged is he, how many times he has logged in, how many times he has clicked certain components in your system. Let's say whether how many times he has interacted with loan application, loan page, how many times he has gone to a particular page, let's say customer support page or any page, like that's kind of engagement that you wanted to understand. And you try to give them the score like how engaged is the customer, right? So using these kind of features, right, so we can find key important information that is required in order to provide custom offers to the customer, or custom insights to predict how likely is the customer is going to churn in the near future, right? Now coming to the integrating customer data for insights, as we are looking at the customer data, so we have variety of data sources. So let's suppose you sometimes can also get extra data from some other sources as well. It's sometimes you have like CRM integration tool. Let's say you can have data in HubSpot, Salesforce, or any other areas as well. So you can sometimes you might need to go out and capture all this information from their websites and try bringing into your data collection. So to make the rich collection of data in order to build the models to increase the customer retention, right? So as we said, so we have diverse customer data, demographics data, is education related data, or he could be transaction data, engagement data, or also could be related to anything like how much whether he's salaried or not, everything, anything that can be part of it. So sometimes any business insights can be unlocked, right, using this diverse customer data that we can get from multiple sources of online. And sometimes it can be within your own systems, or can be collaborated with third party to get that information of the customer, right, if it is legal and supported, right? And also we have like not only structured data like tabular data, sometimes we would also have kind of textual data in form of customer feedback in our application, or he has raised a ticket, or some kind of unstructured data, let's say video based survey or anything. So we need to combine all those data, convert them into numerical features, or store in your website or information database, and then use those rich source of data, which is both customer structured and unstructured data, try to get overall insights about the customer behavior and try to improve the customer retention, right? Now coming to a few of the engagement tactics. So we can what are the key areas? So to highlight, we can have tailored communication. Let's say few people might not understand a particular language. So if you only have customer support in English, you might try to get the pulse of the customers and try to give them like customer tailored communication. Let's say you set up their own language to answer the questions, and then you try to offer based on individual behavior. Let's say one particular customer might be interested in getting a higher credit limit. Other customer might be interested in getting loans who offers like more loans at a lower interest rates. So that might be his value proposition. So based on that, you try to predict which customer needs what kind of offers, which is more important for him, and you accordingly you try to give him offers and give him the preferences, right, in that particular scope. And then using this, if you are using data analytics and trying to use predictive analytics to predict the likelihood of them going out, and then trying to make case studies of who have left in a similar case and how can we improve that, we can increase the customer loyalty and then let them know that we understand their needs and also we are valuing their money, right, money and time. Now, few of the things like this just to highlight, okay, we are already looking at the key areas. So what can be the loyalty programs and incentives that can be given to the customer using the predictive analytics, right? So you can build models to do this, but at a very high level, you can use cards like watches or kind of exchange using tokens or some digital tokens or coupons and rewards for staying with them. And let's say you give them loyalty based more less. I mean, you because she's been with your company for let's say 1 year or 2 years, you give him like let's say lower interest rate compared to other customers. So even you can give them some accumulated points like bonus points, or you can give him like any watches to purchase something online. And like yeah, so you can use these things, and for that you can build models to see which customers need which specific thing. Let's say the single loyalty related incentive might not be a best fit for every customer. So that's where you are gonna use predictive analytics, some kind of machine learning models to predict. Let's say you try to again, it's not just about who retention or not retention. You can also build other models around that particular area. You try to predict which customers you need to show this particular gift. Okay, which customers we need to give this gift, which customers we need to give them the coupons, which customers we need to increase the loyalty program quality, right? So you try to use models to build that models as well, and try to use personalized predictive modeling to for each customer needs, and accordingly you try to model and see like how that particular models are the changes you have done according to that particular thing is affecting the customer retention, right? And the last but not the least, so sometimes you might have implemented some kind of system in place, but the data is ever changing. The customers, let's say, if you are taking the customers, let's say after 10 years, so those customers' needs would be completely different from the customers who are present today, because that time the services might be improved. Let's say if you are still in outdated system, giving outdated features and outdated quality of services, people are not going to be engaged and staying back with your services. Let's suppose right now, recently they have introduced chatbots. So let's say if you wanted to chat with net banking, chat banking, let's suppose take an example, right? In the previous, that they are not present. Right now, if you wanted to do a transaction or do kind of anything, you can directly go to WhatsApp. They have the custom chat. You can send your queries and you can get the statements of your transactions. You can increase your limits or anything right from the chat, right? And then it has been not there in the past. So in the future, it can be even better. So similarly, you might continuously, regularly and continuously monitor how is the customer interactions and how does the customer needs evolving over the time, right? And then try to also do predictive modeling on the updated data, on the data which is at that moment, not outdated data, but the current data which is present on a regular interval, and try to increase your retention strategies or improve your retention strategies. And also you need to understand, analyze and understand the customer churn data on a regular basis. And again, accordingly, try to adapt the marketing strategies and increase the customer satisfaction scores or give them the features or whatever they wanted. And it needs to be like continuous. You can't just do it one time and leave it for the rest, right? And the last but not the least, you need to also look at bias and fairness. Let's suppose sometimes every machine learning model does have some kind of bias and fairness, which means let's suppose the model is giving, like let's say you're asking whether we should give a loan for this particular customer or not. Let's say it is predicting for this particular guy, for men, it is predicting, let's suppose you can give the loan, let's say 60 or 70% confidence, but for the women it is only predicting 50% confidence, because let's say the model might be biased, because like most of the data that you're using for building the predictive model, that the men are likely unemployed, right? So the model might think like men in general are higher person value or more employment compared to women, because the data is biased, right? What that you have used for modeling. So that is also a consideration. You need to ensure that the model is not biased and the data you are using for modeling have a equal value and equal distribution of the categories and importance, right? And then once we do that and we properly do feature selection and model training, then we can remove the discrimination that can happen unintendedly, and also we can have equitable treatment across demographic groups, irrespective of the age, sex, region, country, anything. So these are the few things that we need to take care as well while you are building these predictive models. And the conclusion is like, yeah, so as we have talked about just now, there are a lot of areas where we can use predictive analytics and employ different kind of machine learning models, not just for whether to predict churn or not churn, but even before that, to find what kind of engagement levels are happening, what kind of features or special incentives that for what customers you need to give. Let's say you can do customer segmentation, customer incentive programs, and targeted marketing, targeting ad, etc., to improve the reduce the customer churn and increase the customer retention, right? Yeah. So any questions?
All right. So, in the meanwhile, we have few questions received, Vamshi, from
Yeah.
our professionals and the students. So we
Okay.
have gathered them. Just a second. So the question goes like this: what are the ethical concerns or compliance issues when using customer data for predictive analytics in finance?
Yeah. So ethical and second thing is,
What are the ethical concerns or the legal, what are the compliance issues when using customer data for predictive analytics in finance?
yeah. So basically ethical and compliance is most important. So the customer might need to give them the consent. Let's suppose whenever the customer is interacting with your financial services, he might share some data with you, which he don't want to be used for any modeling purposes or anything. Sometimes the customers might not want to use their data for any such modeling, or use their data for modeling for predicting for other customers. So and also ethically, as I mentioned, like in the last slide is about similar case where we need to maintain ethical issues also, right? So we wanted to make sure that we account for any such cases, right? And how does it happen? Let's say whenever we are doing that kind of predictive modeling, we need to have people who have domain expertise in ethical related thing. And whenever the model is going to the production, we also need to ask them that whether it is ethically proven, or it has any ethical issues or not. And when it comes to compliance also, let's suppose sometimes the government regulations also comes in place on how you can use the customer data and how you can store the customer data. And also data security and compliance is a very vital point, right? So for this, there are two areas, two things. One is either the customers might need to give their consent to be using their data for any other improvement of the services, or improvement of you typically have a survey, right? Whether we can use it for services, other improvement of the services or not. So if that is not given, second is the complaints also is something which you need to maintain, which typically the companies try to maintain your customer data in a secured cloud or storage services, which would be completely isolated, right? Which won't be available for the general public, and they use it in the best interest of what can be used out of that particular data for modeling. So let's suppose when you're building the model, the person or the modeling team might remove your sensitive data. Let's suppose they remove your name, they remove your place, address, any such details which are sensitive, and they use only general features. Let's suppose they can use your education and your age and country. So these are generic features which doesn't contain your sensitive information. But if they are gonna use your name and any specific sensitive information, let's suppose any your father name, your brother name, how many siblings you have. So few of the things are sensitive, and we need to consider and remove that particular information to be compliant with the system regulations and compliance as well.
Sure, Vamshi. Thank you for answering that question. I hope they have received the answer. All right, we have one more question from Pawan. So he's asking, how do you handle missing or unstructured data when building predictive models?
Yeah. So this question is common for most of the predictive modeling. So to keep it short and sweet, so the missing data is most common, and it could happen because of how the data is being collected. Any missing, it can be desperately missed out while collecting the data. It could be not available during the data collection, or it could be induced when the data has been updated into the system. Right. Whatever the reasons, how do you handle the missing values is dependent on two areas. One is whether it is a categorical column or a numerical column. And assuming if it is categorical, then there are few simplistic approaches. One, you input the categorical column missing values using some mode, right? So mode is like what is the most frequently occurring value for that particular category, right? You can input it using the mode, or for numerical columns, you can find the median of that particular feature. If the data is like kind of skewed, right? In that case, using the median is the most preferred. But if the data is normally distributed, so which means like there is a bell curve kind of distribution, then you're gonna use mean for replacing it. And also, this is a simplistic approach. And also, for instance, for specialized approaches, let's say there are machine learning based approaches as well in order to impute the data. Let's say, for instance, there is KNN imputer or other machine learning imputers, which tries to take other features which are available and try to predict the missing value. Let's say your target might be different, but you use other features which are available for other column, other rows which are completely available. Build the model for predicting this particular category, and then using that model, you're gonna fill the data in the missing values, right? Whether it could be categorical or numerical, you're using machine learning, specialized machine learning approach instead of simplistic median, mean or mode based approaches to impute the missing values. So that's a special type of thing. And other way is there are two other considerations. For instance, if you have enough data, if let's say you have 1 lakh data, but only let's say let's say 1,000 rows are missing. So even if you remove those 1,000 rows where you have the missing data, you still have 99,000 rows of data. If that data is quite representative of your actual scenario, then you can remove those 1,000 rows, right? So that is one way that you have enough data in order to build your model without affecting the accuracy or performance. You are free to remove those rows with the missing values. And other cases, let's suppose you have columns. If you have columns with the missing values, and if those columns or features are not most important, or even if you are even after dropping those columns, even then you are able to reach your expected accuracy and performance, you can drop the columns also. So it can be row wise if you have enough number of rows, or it can be columns if you have other columns to support your modeling even without affecting the accuracy or performance. You can drop those, or if you don't want to do either of them, go with the imputation approach, simplistic approaches, or machine learning based approaches.
Great. Thank you, Vamshi, for answering that question. And we have two more questions. I think it's from one of its students. So they're asking what are some common mistakes fintech firms make while implementing predictive analytics?
Yeah, so common mistakes, I don't say it as a common mistakes, but key areas of consideration that needs extra significance or extra scrutiny is how they handle the customer data. So as I have given in the last few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes back, that whenever the customer is sharing the data with you, it doesn't mean he's already giving you the consent to use the data to build the models and improve the services. So that should be considered. Like they cannot, they sometimes might unknowingly or knowingly use our sensitive data, but not every institute they take extra measures. But that is one pitfall, that sometimes they might unknowingly use sensitive data. And second is, some of the fintech companies are not proactively improving the customer retention programs. Let's suppose using the outdated data. Let's say, as we say, the data right now, the generation of the data is very peak. So in the recent times. So if you are not competitive or not updating the data on a regular basis, your predictions and the predictive models would get outdated. Let's say you built a model 1 year back. So that sometimes even 1 year could be a very quite long time. So you might need to update the model every month, if not every day, right? So in certain financial services, you cannot stay back and say, I updated the model 1 year back, I'll update the model another year, right? That won't work. Which means another pitfall or another issue that financial services do is, which causes them more loss, is that they don't update the models regularly, which is also another issue. And the third is that they don't sometimes have enough data, or their customer, I mean, data collection efforts are weak, which means they don't have enough data about the customer and their requirements in order to implement decisions to provide them customers custom services. And also, last but not the least, when this is the case where you're not in touch with the customer, engagement is lower, you lose what the customer is requesting. So as you get stale, you're not improving your services or introducing any new offers or new features or anything, the customer starts churning, which means you need to also take customer surveys regularly, try to predict who is gonna predict likely to churn, and give them the custom offers and incentives to keep them stay back. So yeah, these are the few areas, and yeah, if it continues, then there are a lot more. But these are the common
Yes.
areas where the companies typically have some pitfalls.
Understood, Vamshi. Thank you so much for answering that question. We have one last question.
Yeah.
I think it's from a student. So they're asking, is the domain knowledge in finance essential to work in such analytics models? And if so, like which tools or programming languages are most commonly used in this area?
Yeah. So to answer this question, it's good to have domain knowledge, but it's not mandatory. Sometimes in a company, you can always take support from second guy. I mean, the first question is whether you should always have the domain knowledge or not. It's not mandatory, but it is a good to have skill. If you already have the domain knowledge, you don't need to go to the second person and ask what features should be considered. Let's say domain knowledge helps you to choose the features as well. What are the key features that are required to be considered for modeling? So that question could be answered by domain knowledge experts. And also ethical considerations and compliance issues also. This is also something which they are good at, right? If you don't have that skill by yourself, you are good at coding, you are good at modeling, you are good at deployment, but not good at domain knowledge of that particular case, you can ask your teammates or any domain experts in your team to help you check that particular details. And if you already have it, you don't need to depend on the second person, you can do it yourself. And second thing is with respect to programming. So I guess like whenever you're coming into machine learning and data science AI, so Python is the most common programming language that you're gonna typically use. But also you have like big data tools, and let's say basically this particular example, let's say at least a fintech related thing. So this has huge amount of data. So you use big data tools like Hadoop or PySpark or something to process the data at scale. So where the scale of data is very, very big. But for generic cases, even you can use normal Python as well. And other tools if you are having very small data, and you can start from Excel also, you have only few rows of data, you can manually do that. Or you can use, if you wanted to do digital, charts and all, you can use Tableau, Excel, and if you are doing statistical analysis, you can go for MATLAB or R programming. So, but the most common, if I keep it, R Python is the most common, and then you can go for Tableau if you're going for charts. And also there is alternative Microsoft Power BI if you are good at Power BI. And other things are like big data tool frameworks if you have data at scale. So these are the few of the tools and technologies that can support you in this particular issue.
All right, Vamshi. I think that's all. Those were the questions posed by our professionals and our teammates, and also the students who have joined today's session. I hope all their questions were answered today. And thank you for answering all of them, Vamshi. So,
Yeah,
and also we would like to thank you for collaborating with Cadle Labs to put up such an informative webinar on predictive analytics, on the topic predictive analytics for customer retention in fintech. So that's the hot topic, I think, which is now in the market. So I
yeah,
hope all the questions were answered. And thank you so much, folks, for joining us today for this informative webinar. Thank you, everyone, and see you all in the next webinar. Thank you, Vamshi. Thank you,
yeah.
everyone.
Thanks for the information. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.